Alan has asked me to take this morning's morning manna. So if I was asked to pick a particular book of the Bible that I think speaks to these days that we're living in, I would say the book of Ecclesiastes. So before I go any further, why say that? What makes Ecclesiastes so relevant at this time? If there's anything that these past couple of months have taught us, it is that we have a lot less control over our own lives than we tend to realise. Someone recently made the point in social media that no one would have answered the question in 2015, where do you intend to be 5 years from now, with an answer something like, just in the house. Trips and holidays have had to be cancelled, and plans have either been put on hold or brought to a complete halt. On a more serious note, people are fearing for their working futures, and people with that are fearing for the financial security of themselves and of their families. It has to be said then also that death is a much more pertinent issue. At this time, we see the reality of death in the news constantly, and we think about ourselves and we think about our families with relation to death. Does the Bible speak to what we're seeing? Ecclesiastes is so relevant because it does, and it tells us that this situation is not something out of the ordinary, but rather the actual reality of life in the world. That might sound pessimistic, but what I want to suggest to you is that Ecclesiastes actually offers us a realism about life in the world, and it also teaches us to look beyond ourselves for the hope that we long for and that we need. Listen to Ecclesiastes 1 verse 2 on the reality of life. It says, "Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity." The best translation of that is not meaningless, all is meaningless, as some translations say. But the best translation is the merest of breaths, the merest of breaths. Everything is but a breath. What do we know of breath? It's as straightforward as it seems to you. A breath is something that serves its purpose, and it's just as quickly gone. Death is a common denominator to us all. Our lives are short. Breath is also something we have no control over. It's something that you can't just snatch and hold in your hand. It's something that proves elusive. The question for us then becomes, what are we supposed to do with these realities of death and of lacking control? The answer I want to offer you today is understand what is entailed in human nature and the limitations of that nature. If you do so, you're advantaged in two ways. The first is that you're free to embrace life for what it is. The second is that you're free to embrace a certain truth about yourself, which for now I'll keep a mystery. But why embrace life for what it is? As we've said already, our lack of control over matters in our lives means that no matter what we do, there is no guarantee of gain or of permanence. Permanence is something which we're continually grasping for. It's also something which continually eludes us. You might, for example, have the university place landed. You might have been the top candidate for the job. But in either case, you're not guaranteed what you envision for yourself in life. Very relevant also to this present time is this longing to see and to hold family members again. It's most reasonable, of course, to desire this. Yet this time also teaches us that in life, even what you would consider to be your right is something that can actually be taken from you. I'll come back to that longing to be with family slightly later. Just now, though, embrace life for what it is, because the winner, if you're willing to use that term in life, is not the one that gains the most of whatever it might be. Wisdom, possessions, pleasure. Solomon speaks about all these things in Ecclesiastes. He refers to them as vutai, when they're taken out of proportion, or when they're made ultimate thing. The winner in life then is the one who can graciously accept the lot that he or she has received from God's hand, with thankfulness and with joy. That's what Solomon really tells us in Ecclesiastes 2, 24 to 25, where he says, There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat, or who can find enjoyment? This so-called pessimist Solomon, as it turns out, commends the enjoyment of life. The key is that the enjoyment is intended to be within the confines of what God grants. There is, however, as we close, something of a paradoxical nature to what Ecclesiastes teaches us about ourselves. We're called to be satisfied with our lot, yes, but we're also called to embrace our limitations. That is a wise thing to do. But here's a question. Is it inherently wrong to desire more from your life? And could it be that your desires say something massively significant about you? My thesis for you today is that it's not inherently wrong to desire, and our desires do say something significant. As Christians, we're called to this paradox of satisfied, yet always desiring. Why is it that you cannot seem to get enough of being in the presence of someone that you love, and that regardless of the extent of your limits as circumstance determines? Why is it that when you watch the sun setting across whatever beach, you just can't seem to watch for long enough? You want to be able to press pause. You want to be able to stay in the moment. What I'm actually describing here is something that Solomon had in mind in Ecclesiastes 1:8, where he said, the eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. The certain truth about yourself that I purposefully left a mystery is that of Ecclesiastes 3:11. He has also set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom the work that God has done from beginning to end. Basically, Christian or non-Christian, we sense within ourselves, though we're limited to a particular space and particular time constraints, that we're created for more than what we experience in the lives that we are living. As C.S. Lewis once so aptly stated, if I find in myself a desire which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only explanation is that I was made for another world. To come back to the sunset example, there's a certain satisfaction with seeing, but there's a dissatisfaction in the reality that you want to look for just that little bit longer, and that you leave that scene behind and you want to experience it again. The bottom line is that you are made for another world. The conclusion, when we know that we are made for more, is that we need to look to something beyond ourselves for the fulfillment, the joy, the satisfaction that we long for. Solomon evidenced in his book the reality of God. He spoke of eternity, as we mentioned. He also spoke of how God will one day bring everything into judgment in Ecclesiastes 12, verse 14. There's accountability before God for the lives that we live. The fulfillment, the satisfaction and the joy that we long for, however, is something that as Christians we can confidently say is found in the person of Jesus Christ. Life might not be what you expected or hoped for today. Ecclesiastes gives us reason to accept that as something unsurprising. Perhaps though, in spite of what has been a difficult time for many, you have managed to find considerable joy and happiness in this season. I don't know. Either way, the truth of Psalm 16:11 holds true. You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. God is our ultimate place of hope. Life in the world is short, but God is eternal. Life is beyond our control, but God is sovereign. Thanks for listening.